So a little bit ago, you guys may have seen on the channel, I actually made a video talking about the West Coast Eagles' new jumper numbers. And as I was going through the numbers and kind of speaking about them on the channel, I of course saw a player there that I feel like has not had enough talk about him throughout the offseason, and a player who could absolutely be considered now one of the better pickups in the draft, one of the biggest, like, how did he fall down this far in the draft? And that does actually happen to be, of course, Fred Rodriguez, who I completely even forgot got picked up by West Coast. Like, it was a blink and you'll miss it type of thing, and I feel like everyone and their dad is kind of in a similar boat here, where no one has really been talking about it, and there's a lot of people who don't actually know this even happened. But Fred Rodriguez fell all the way out of the national draft and was picked up with the first overall pick in the 2025 AFL rookie draft to the Eagles. This is massive for a lot of different things. Fred Rodriguez, of course, once upon a time was a top 10, top 15 ranked player in the draft, literally just a couple months before the draft, even happened. And this was the biggest draft of, like, players moving up and down and a bunch of different form consistency issues and all the above that we've probably ever seen in, like, the history of drafts. But it is pretty crazy for a guy to be ranked in, like, the top 15 and then 2 months later he just disappears like my dad. Disappeared like my dad, to the point where this guy got picked up in the freaking rookie draft to the Eagles. Obviously, the state as well that he does come from. There is a little bit here on the West Coast Eagles website that I'd like to talk about too. It says the rookie draft file, pick number 1, Fred Rodriguez, a dual-footed midfielder who runs hard both ways and leads by example. Rodriguez has been one of Western Australia's most consistent young talents over the past 2 seasons. After missing under-16 representation through injury in 2023, he bounced back strongly in 2024, making 11 Colts appearances for South Fremantle and averaging 22.5 disposals per game. His rise continued at national level, playing all 4 games for WA at the AFL Under-18 Championships last year, before earning selection in the National Under-17 Futures Program and induction into the AFL Academy. Rodriguez captained WA at this year's championships, claiming All-Australian honours in the Black Swans MVP award. At club level, he averaged 25.3 disposals, 5.5 tackles, and a goal per game across 8 Colts matches, showcasing his ability to impact contests and hit the scoreboard. Rodriguez also impressed at the National Draft Combine, finishing 7th overall in the 2-kilometre time trial with a 6:20. After a taste of senior football with South Fremantle in round 1 and a reserves appearance later in the season, Rodriguez now takes the next step in his football journey as an Eagle. Head of list management and recruiting, Matt Clark, said the club was thrilled to bring in such a highly credentialed young player. Fred captained the WA Under-18 side and is a big-bodied midfielder with outstanding character, Clark said. He was the state Under-18 MVP and is arguably one of the most highly credentialed players to come through the WA program in recent years. He covers the ground exceptionally well, wins contested ball, and is a genuine clearance specialist. So yeah, there is a little bit of a mystery on how this guy fell so far down in the draft. I also believe before starting the year, and I could be very wrong on this, but I feel like he may have been on Cal Toomey's 10 to watch, or he was on some kind of 10 to watch or some kind of watch list, not the bad kind of watch list, obviously. I'm talking about the good footy kind of watch list. Fred Rodriguez was a player who had been very highly rated because, he's not a small midfielder, but he's not a tall midfielder. He's in kind of that medium type of range. But the thing is, he's big-bodied for his height, and he can absolutely run. Like it's been said, his two-way running is pretty good. You saw that his 2-kilometre time trial had some excellent elite numbers right there. And it genuinely just does beg the question, what what went wrong. Now, I think there have been some things that have said about him, some people saying his disposal, etc., etc. But in a draft where you've got a guy who's finished top 7 in the 2K, got good two-way running, he gets the ball plenty. You know, he was the captain of Western Australia. Look, his disposal, if it's not good or whatever, go and improve it. And I'm pretty sure that he should have still been worth a top pick here. But again, there are so many things, like players and more so scouts or whatever, they see things that we just don't, right? Like, I like to think I know a fair bit of AFL, you know, I think I know my fair amount, but do I know as much as what a scout probably would? You know, probably not. They get paid to watch minors kick a ball around for a million years. I mean, like, if you go down to your local park and you watch some kids kick a footy, shit, you're probably going to have a freaking police car come and get you and take you away. But these blokes, nah, they get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to go and do that. And they know every little defect, every little thing about the player that sometimes we just can't even see. Like, there are probably so many different things. Like, it's almost like it with every sport. A lot of players, you know, they get measured, they get tested. The combine is a massive thing for a reason. And for a perfect example, in the NFL, they even go as far as measuring players' hand sizes. And of course, if their hands are too small, they're probably not going to be as good as catching the ball. If their hands are too small, they're not going to be as good as throwing the ball. There's always little things that can deter scouts and can deter recruiting managers from potentially selecting a player. Again, I don't know what exactly was too wrong with Fred Rodriguez. There obviously is definitely a lot more than we probably know. A little bit more than just disposal and a couple of the other weaknesses that we've seen. But obviously, I like to be somewhat of the optimist here. And I'm looking at this dude's running ability, and the highlights that I've seen show me that this guy could very well be a decent footballer, and showing me as well that it was absolutely worth taking the punt on this guy and taking him with a first overall selection in the rookie draft. So it is definitely one that has really just flown under the radar. Unfortunately for him, again, I'm sure he will hopefully play some very, very early football. You know, West Coast, I think it was last year, this dude would probably play like every game. Like, West Coast were legitimately playing, they were playing some blokes who probably shouldn't have been playing for the most part. But this year, I think it's going to be a lot harder to earn selection. They've, of course, got 11 new players. A couple of them are certainties. I think Starcevic is a certain for round 1 if he's healthy. Tyler Young's obviously a certain. I think Willem Dersma is probably a certain at this point. Duff Tyler, you'd have to think is very, very close. And even a guy like Josh Lindsay, if he proves himself and does well in this preseason, he'll be very close up there. So it's not going to be as easy as last year where you just had blokes, or this year, just most recent season for the Eagles, we had blokes just randomly getting games because they didn't have, obviously, good enough guys to play. I think the list competition is going to be a bit different this year. You've also got guys like Dev Robertson, you know, Finn McRae, Schoenberg, all these guys coming through who absolutely want to prove they're AFL players and want to prove that the Eagles giving them a second chance was highly worth it. So it may take some time for Fred Rodriguez to play. It may not. But I think he's got some attributes, and I don't think the Eagles, you know, they could definitely use some speed coming through that midfield. And yeah, if he can get into that group of Dersma, Reid, Elliott Yeo, I guess Tim Kelly's still there. But if he can get into that, I think he'll be going very good. But of course, if you haven't already, please make sure to leave a like to let me know if you guys enjoyed this video. Subscribe to the channel for all those AFL content and AFL news. Go and subscribe to my gaming/movie channel if you haven't already. It will be getting linked in the description down below. Go give me a follow on Instagram as well if you haven't already. That will also be getting linked in the description down below. But yeah, as I was saying, please make sure to leave a like, subscribe, and comment. And I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.